Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where today we have a very interesting review and comparison of a Kizer knife. And this review and comparison is brought to you by White Mountain Knives. Be sure to check them out for all of your knife and EDC needs. And be sure to use this code right here, WSW10, for 10% off your purchase of either one of these knives or any knife on their website. Any purchase you make at all from them, you're going to save 10%. So check them out. They are a fantastic retailer. They're not the biggest. They have a great selection. They have great customer service. They have very prompt shipping. It's really hard to go wrong with White Mountain Knives. Now, let's take a look at this knife. These knives are none other than the Kizer Infinity, a front flipper model, as well as the flipper model. Now, a while back, and I mean quite a while back, I'd say at least 2-3 months ago, I had a viewer comment on one of my videos of another Kizer knife saying, man, you gotta check out the Kizer Infinity. The action's fantastic, some of the best action I've ever had on a knife. And I was like, man, that's a pretty that's a lot to say about a cheap budget knife. Not cheap in quality, only cost. We'll get to that here in just a second. But I thought, you know what, at some point I'm gonna have to get my hands on it. And I have to say, when I first saw the picture of them, once I looked it up after I heard that from this review, or from this viewer, I can't say the design actually took me, didn't exactly have me going oohing and on. So I wasn't too sure, but finally it became long enough, and then they came out with more versions. They came out with this front flipper version. Back when he recommended it, there was just a flipper version. I thought, you know what? They're really doing something with this knife. It must be catching on. It must be selling well. There's got to be something about it. So I got them on the table, and I couldn't be happier. Before we get into talking about these knives, let's go over some specs and comparisons here, some size comparisons. Before I go into that, though, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. If you like what you see, do me a favor, smash that subscribe button, follow along, and I will continue to bring you the content. Now, let's take a look at some specs on these knives. We have an overall length of 7 inches with a blade length coming in at 3 inches and a cutting edge at 2.875 inches. The blade width on these knives are 0.88 inches with a blade thickness of 0.12 inches. Blade material on both of these guys is N690 with a drop point style blade, a flat grind, a handle length coming in at 4 inches with a handle thickness coming in at 0.48 inches. The handle width on these guys are 1 inch with handle material of micarta. Obviously, they're considerably different types of micarta, which we'll go over when we get to handle and ergos. We have locking mechanisms of liner locks on both of them, and a user of right hand only tip-up carry, weight coming in at 2.58 ounces, and a price, you guys, $59 a pop. That's pretty hard to beat, especially when you factor in that Kizer quality and Kizer action. Now, these knives are designed by a gentleman by the name of Azo. I'm A-Z-O. I'm going with Azo. It could be Azo or Azo. I'm going to go with Azo. He has really had a lot of designs come through Kizer. I'm starting to think he is like a designer for Kizer only. I don't know his full story. I actually do follow him on Instagram. I'm going to have to reach out to him because I see more and more designs from him that really do appeal to me. And as I said, this one didn't exactly jump out at me, but I tell you, once you get some of these knives in hands, guys, they really are just, they look fantastic. Pictures almost never do them justice, especially when you're talking a Kizer, because they really are, they're budget knives, but they're next level when you get them in hand. They really are. If you've held one in hand before, you know what I'm talking about. Let's do some size comparisons real quick before we get too deep into it. We have the Paramilitary 3, and we have your Benchmade bug out. This is not the mini bug out. This is the regular bug out. As you can see there, that probably does it for most people in terms of size. So these are not very big knives. They're very, very nice size for EDC for a lot of people. So very, very good job there. And I tell you, for as small as they are, they don't feel that small in hand. But let's take a couple other knives here that I think are even better in terms of overall length. We have the Giant Mouse Ace Biblio, as well as the Civivi Elementum. And I think this right here will definitely do it for everybody. Give everybody a really good idea just what we have here. And it's kind of the actual contour of the handle, kind of in a little way, I kind of think of the Biblio. Obviously, the micarta Biblio a little more because it has a little more that 3D or the contoured micarta, which you don't have here. This is a completely flat scale. But as you can see, there's your size comparisons. I think everyone should be good on those. Take away from it whatever you need. And now let's get into these knives because, again, these are more Kizer knives that just didn't disappoint, and they usually don't. I'm trying to think of the last time a Kizer knife disappointed me. It's been a minute. So I'll kind of go back and forth with these knives as I talk about them, but we're going to start off with the flipper. And when it comes to these blades, obviously, you guys, the only thing different between these knives is one has a flipper, one has a front flipper, one's coated, one's non-coated, and different handle materials in terms of color. They're both micarta, but different cuts and different grains and whatnot. Everything else is exactly the same. So I'm just going to go back and forth to let you get a good look at each one of them. But I consider a very unique blade. It's a very bubbly drop point. And that was kind of what turned me off from it at the beginning. There's something about a big bubbly part of the blade up here that just looked a little off to me at first. But I kept hearing about it. I saw these versions. I said, you know what, we're going to get into it. And I'm not disappointed. This bubbly blade has an almost full flat grind. And we are talking an edge reading on both of these. These both come in the same 17 thousandths behind the edge. So yeah, so that's some pretty good cutting geometry, especially with as wide as this blade is. That's a very gradual grind up at the top. So these are very good slicers. The blade itself, like I said, it's really starting to grow on me. When I got it in hand, it just really works. And then actually the way it performs, I tell you what, the tip of this blade, actually all the way down to about the middle of the blade and up, is just, it's very slicey. It's surprisingly slicey. And like I said, that gradual grind up towards the top of the spine, up to the spine, is really what kind of makes it. And another thing that I love about this blade is the jimping on both of them. You get good jimping and you get a lot of jimping. This is not just some, quick little, centimeters worth of jimping down here. This is a full thumb's worth of jimping, and it allows you to move your thumb up or back on the blade and still get that jimping in hand, which is very much appreciated because, again, a $59 knife, I kind of have the mindset, the cheaper the knife, the easier it is to beat the hell out of it. So when you have jimping like this that you can really work with and go to town on, I really do appreciate that, and I think a lot of other users will as well. Outside of the jimping, though, there really isn't a lot of anything real special about these blades. Just a nice thin edge, wide blade, a good slicer. It really does, for as simple as it is, it really does excel. Now, going into the handle and ergos, for me, both of the ergos on both of these knives are very good. I think people with smaller hands are going to like either one just as much, but I think if you have more medium to large size hands, I think a lot of people may prefer the front flipper just in terms of ergos because you don't have that flipper out here. When I'm holding this one in hand, I still get a full 4-finger grip, just enough for my pinky to wrap around the bottom of it, and it feels good. There's no hot spots on either one of these knives. These pocket clips are fantastic. They have a nice gradual little soft flattened part up here on the clip and fully recessed clips and screws. So they're going to go into the pocket, no problem whatsoever. And they also, one of the issues that I've had with knives lately is the way that the height of the clip is way up there. They're up like right here. I mean, it doesn't look like a big difference, but it's a massive difference when you have the knife in hand. These are a nice low profile, deep carry clip, and I really appreciate that. I didn't realize how much I took that for granted until I started holding some of these other knives lately. They've just been way, way too high profile. These nice low profile clips are the ticket. Now, when you get into not having the flipper, for me, that is where the ergos really go to another level, because I can get a full grip. If I want to come back here, I can still do it, but I have that freedom to choke up and get in there with that detail work and put that nice slicey blade to some detailed work, to some little slicing tasks that you may have to really, be careful and get that wiggling in there, and you get that part right here. It works really nice and it feels great in hand. You also have very easy access to the liner lock, which is very nice. Always nice on these. And I tell you what, when you get in there and you disengage that lock bar, liner lock, it's very, very drop shutty. This is one disadvantage you kind of have with this, is you don't have that flipper to stop the blade, because it comes down quick, fast, and in a hurry. Now, it kicks out just as fast, and the action on both of these guys are absolutely fantastic. I get what that viewer was saying now with this flipper. It's just, oh my gosh. You push, and it's out. It's out real stinking quick. In terms of just really easy, fast deployment, this flipper is hard to beat. You guys know I love a good front flipper. This flipper, you pull out of the pocket, boom, it's out, and the detent is perfect. Just listen and watch. It's crazy. Detent on this guy is absolutely perfect on the flipper. Love this detent. Crisp, snappy, drop shut like a guillotine, and killer action. Now, when it comes to the front flipper, it's still really good. If I have one thing to say about it, the jimping is good, but it doesn't quite have the bite I want, but I still like it. It still works. Now, this is really hard to do. I don't know if I can. I don't think I can do the reach around, because the detent is, like I said, just a little hard, but it doesn't give you any real issues to deploy the blade. You just have to get used to that and know what kind of force to apply. I also have a little bit of a kind of a cut, or little, I don't know, whatever that is. It's a little painful spot on my thumb right now, so it kind of hurts to put it right here to front flip it, but it still works just fine, and you still have insane drop shutty action, and it works really well. I'm going to throw a caveat here and make a suggestion. As much as I really like the action on both of these knives, I love the action on this flipper. This front flipper version needs thumb studs. If this had thumb studs, and it would work, it's very simple to do. I mean, you basically just pick apart a spot where you'd like to put thumb studs, move it around, and if it's not catching any of the handle here, then you just put in a stop pin somewhere or find a way to close it. I know it's probably not that simple, but I'm not a knife maker, so pardon my ignorance. If it's a lot harder to do, someone let me know. But I've heard knife makers, as I talk to them, say, oh yeah, that could use thumb studs. You could put thumb studs on that. So I think it's kind of that simple. But regardless, if you had thumb studs here, it'd be a little easier to work with that slightly stronger detent. And I tell you what, with that stronger detent, that blade would just absolutely rocket out of there. You could do the middle finger flick. It would make this knife oh yeah, that fits really good in hand there. You could pop that out. It would make for an extremely fun fidgety knife. Both of these knives are still fidgety as is, but due to the strength of the detent on the front flipper, you are kind of limited to just front flipping this knife. You can't really... Okay, so you can do the reach around. Maybe it's something to where I have not disassembled either one of these knives, so okay, I guess it's slightly reach around approved, but it definitely probably needs a little extra lube in there around the detent ball to help it just free up a little. But regardless, great action on this, great action on the flipper. Guys, it's really hard for me to say anything real negative about these knives, because you get into the handle material too, and they're both, the fit and finish is, for 59 bucks, I have no complaints. I do prefer the red a little more just because I like seeing that grain on the micarta, and it's a very nice. This is going to patina really well. The black micarta is just more your typical, run-of-the-mill micarta. Still looks great. You still see the texture. There's everything you want on this micarta. It's got the grip. It's got the quality, the fit and finish, the looks. It's got it all. Both of these knives for $59. There's no way I couldn't recommend either one of these. If you like flippers, if you are someone who just prefers flippers and that's kind of like your bread and butter when it comes to deployment, you are doing yourself an injustice if you do not give this Infinity a try. I honestly mean that. It really is one of the best true flippers in terms of action I have ever handled. And I really kind of shocked I'm saying it. But, oh my God, look at it. It just like appears. It's just out. It's so good. Absolutely one worth checking out. And if you like front flippers, this is another one worth checking out. If you're a modder and you can put thumb studs on a knife, God, you gotta try it with this one. It's great. It really is great. But overall, two that I would highly recommend, especially at the price point, guys. There's not much to knock on these knives for $59. I'd highly recommend either one. Let me know your thoughts. If you are that viewer, you're watching this video that recommended the Infinity to me, thank you. Call yourself out in the video. I will acknowledge that because that was a killer recommendation. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know your thoughts on the knives. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And until the next one, I'm out.